Are you ready to take your NCLEX prep to the next level? Join our exclusive YouTube Premium membership and gain access to powerful resources that'll help you dominate the NCLEX step by step. Bronze membership. For just a small investment, you'll stand out in our community with a special member badge, and you'll get priority message replies to ensure your questions never go unanswered. Upgrade to silver membership. You'll get everything in bronze plus exclusive members-only videos packed with NCLEX strategies. Practice questions on video format to test your knowledge and sharpen your skills. With silver, you're not just watching, you're actively preparing. Want the ultimate NCLEX advantage? Then Platinum membership is for you. Along with everything in bronze and silver, you'll get exclusive access to the next generation NCLEX Master Course. No matter where you are in your NCLEX journey, we have a membership tier designed just for you. Click the join button now and start your path to NCLEX success today.
Hello, NCLEX Crusaders. How are you? Welcome to another live here on our YouTube channel, NCLEX Crusade International. So I see some of you are still joining us. Welcome, everyone. We have a special, very special YouTube live today with a very special guest. So I know that you will be blessed today listening from real experience from an excellent nurse that have had many years as a experience as a nurse in the US. And we have invited him to our YouTube channel to share some of his knowledge and experience as a US registered nurse. So if you're ready, if you're excited to begin, let me know in the comment section where you're joining from. You know, if you are here in the US already, or if you are in another country. I know we have many people from Nigeria. We have people from all over Africa, Asia, all over Latin America. So we are very excited to share this information pretty much across the whole world. What a blessing it has been to share with you my experience as an NCLEX professor. Many of you have taken the NCLEX already and passed, and you keep coming back just to say hi. So if you're here and you've passed the NCLEX already, you know, with the teachings and guidance of our YouTube channel, let us know in the comment section as well. I would like to recognize you. Thank you, everyone. Africa, from the Gambia, all right, New York, Pennsylvania, Florida. All right, very good. Well, we're very excited. This week we crossed our 105,000 subscribers here in our YouTube channel, NCLEX Crusade International. And I always like to give thanks to those who have decided to join our YouTube channel. All right. Bangladesh. Okay. Rhode Island, Florida, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Texas. All right. We got from all over the place. Well, welcome everyone. Let's begin. Let me bring to our main stage here, Mr. Raul Mesa. Mr. Raul Mesa is a registered nurse in the United States, and he has a very wonderful story. Wait until you hear it. I've heard it already several times, and it doesn't matter how many times I listen to it, I always get inspired. This gentleman that you see here has written an outstanding book that, you know, I encourage everyone to read, Injection of Faith. I love that title, by the way, Raul. I love that title because many times we do need an injection of faith to continue fighting, to continue giving the best we can, because for many of us, the journey of becoming a registered nurse is not very easy. We have students from all over the world here, and with the visa screening, the English as a second language, sometimes it gets very, very, very difficult. And you are an inspiration to many of us. And I want to thank you from the NCLEX Crusade family for once again, for a second time, to come back to NCLEX Crusade and share your wonderful story.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Enclex Crusade International, for allowing me to speak to your audience. It's a blessing. Dios les bendiga. My name is Raul Mesa. I've been a critical care nurse for over 32 years. The first 22 years, I specialized in open hearts. And the last 10 years, I've done what's called a rapid response. So it'll be a privilege for me to share my story with your audience, and hopefully leave everybody with a little gold nugget and a little wind beneath your wings, because this is a calling. And if you have this calling, it doesn't matter what kind of storm you're facing or what kind of roadblocks you have, there will be a way. And we're going to talk about that today.
Amen, amen. Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Raul. You were sharing with me the first time we talked about how you started this nursing journey, because I don't know if you can say this. Were you one of those that you woke up one day and said, you know what, I want to be a nurse? Or was it more of a process that you went through of actually saying, you know what, maybe this nursing thing, I have to give it a go? How was your experience, and what brought up that idea to become a registered nurse?
Well, obviously Providence has a lot to do with it. It's so funny because now that I'm sitting in this chair, I know everybody's sitting on the other side when you're at the beginning of what you wanted to be a career, right? And I was there, he was there, we've all been there, so I understand. But it's so funny, but looking back now, 32 years, I say, wow, in 32 years, I've lost count of how many hands I've held when they've taken their last breath. In 32 years, I've lost count how many times I've had to do CPR. And luckily, a percentage of those times we've been successful and we've brought patients back. And a percentage of that percentage comes back to tell me some amazing stories, right? Where they were, what they saw, what they experienced while they were absent in the body. And I encourage you guys to stay tuned. We'll cover those stories way at the end. Um, but to answer your question specifically, is that no, absolutely not. In fact, when I was in high school, if you were going to tell me I was going to be a nurse, man, we'd be throwing down. Those are fighting words because girls are nurses, boys aren't nurses, right? That doesn't exist, at least where I grew up. So no, that was the last thing on my mind. I thought I was going to go into computer science, and but God had other plans. And what happened basically is it wasn't working out for me in computer science. Like, coding was a little harder than I thought. And then one day I wound up really sick. I mean, like really sick. I wound up having a seizure from a high fever. And I was like 20. Rushed to the hospital. Was really out of it. Wound up being intubated, placed in critical care. Because you're young, you bounce back like this, which is what I did. And while I was there was a priest, and I remember him so clearly. He came up to me. He's like, "Wow, you're such a nice guy." He's like, I'm a priest. He says, I'm also a psychologist. He says, but believe it or not, I'm also a nurse. I also have my RN. And I like to ask you a favor. He's like, I want you to consider being a father like myself and being a nurse. I think it would be good for you. And I looked at him and I says, look, father, all right, I'll be a father of family. I said, I'll be a father. That nurse stuff, that's for girls. And he's like, look around. There's a couple of guys here. Anyway, I didn't pay too much attention to it. But when I got back to school, once I got better and I was walking through the hallways, I was still trying to figure out where I'm supposed to be in my life. When all of a sudden I passed the nursing office, I saw the door and I thought, it wouldn't hurt to ask a few questions. So I walked in with a few questions. I walked out, signed up, and started a nursing career and nursing school, which I'm going to be honest, I hated every day of it. It was so hard,
Absolutely.
and the only reason I didn't quit was because one day I found myself closer to finishing than I was starting. So I thought, I'm over halfway there. I don't know what else I'm going to do. Let me just continue finishing. And I'll tell you, I found a nice surprise when I graduated and I started working. Is as soon as I started working as a nurse, I loved it. It was like fish to water. How can you dislike school so much, but yet when you start doing your career, you find out that you love it, you know? And part of it had to do with my instructors back then when I grew up. I mean, this is 32 years ago. Our instructors used to eat their own. And I would see it. 26 of us started the class, only 6 of us graduated. They really,
Wow.
really picked on you and really weaned you out. So it was kind of a miserable experience. And I know I have listeners here who are in different parts of their journey, or some are just maybe considering it. Some maybe have been practicing in their country and they really want to pass the NCLEX in the US, or maybe you're about to graduate, wherever you are in your journey. Just remember that you paid a price to get where you are. And only you know how hard it is, how many hours, how many naysayers in your ear saying you can't do it. But if you're still at this point, that means you have a calling. I promise you, the price you have to pay is worth it. You know, I look at it this way. As soon as I graduated as an RN, I realized something. I realized that the least I'll ever be in my life is a registered nurse. That is now the basement of my life. That is pretty good basement, because from there, it's up, anywhere up. And with nursing, you have the world opens up. You have so
Yes.
many options, right? As a nurse, yes, I've been a critical care nurse. Yes, I've worked in the ER. Some other things that people don't know is I've been a traveling nurse, right? That's been a wonderful opportunity. I've been a nurse on movie sets and TV sets. As a nurse, I've taken care of paupers, poor people, and princesses from different kinds of the countries, presidents of the United States. I mean, lots of actors and stuff. People, if I name names, and I can't, but if I name names, you would have been like, well, but I promise that it started as a young man in the poorest of neighborhoods, where my father and my mother had a second grade degree. My father had a fifth grade degree. I was the first to graduate high school in my family. First one to go to college, first one to graduate college. But there was a ceiling in our family, right? Of you can't do it. It's too hard. It's not for us. That's not what we do type of ceiling. But once I broke the glass, everybody followed. Brothers, sisters, nephews, cousins, they've all graduated, several nurses. My kids, respiratory therapists, they've all graduated in there. So no matter where you are, right? Don't look at your surroundings, about your possibilities. I promise your options open up, because and I'm very spiritual about this. I knew that God was walking in front of me, and before I got to certain intersections that were going to be problems, he was already creating answers, so that when I arrived, as long as I persevered, when I arrived, the door would be ready for me to go through. So no matter where you are in your journey, you gotta believe that it will happen. You gotta believe, and it's worth it. It's worth it.
What an amazing story, Raul. It's true that sometimes some people say life takes you through passages that you would never believe. I personally believe that it's not life, it's God's purpose in our life. So I wanted to do something different in this YouTube live that we did previously when we met with the other nurses at NCLEX Crusade Latino YouTube channel. And then, by the way, I say if there's any Spanish speaking nurses here and you're more comfortable with Spanish, we do have a Spanish side of NCLEX Crusade. Just take the international part out and you will find it. So I wanted to do a little bit different here, Raul. And I know you're an expert at this, so you don't have to try too hard to answer these questions, because it falls back to what you do every single day as a nurse. And I would like to use this opportunity and help nurses around the world that they have that desire to become a nurse in the US, and they probably have some of these questions. And maybe you can bring some light to these questions that they have. So the first question that I have for you is what emotional qualities does a nurse need to thrive under the pressure of working in the ICU, or in your case now as a rapid response nurse?
That's okay. That's a great question, right? That's a great question. So, what kind of emotional qualities does a nurse need to have to thrive? Um, when I walk into a critical care situation, especially as a rapid response nurse, for those who don't know what it is, basically, um, I have a phone, and whenever there's emergency, whether it's a code blue, a code stroke, whatever kind of code. In fact, if a nurse has a patient that's declining and they're concerned because maybe it's out of their scope of experience, they'll just call a rapid response, and I'll arrive. So when I arrive, I don't know the patient, I don't know the history, I don't know what's going on, I don't know who the doctor's in. I walk in, okay? First and foremost, ABCs, baby. I look at the patient. Is their way open? Are they breathing? And do they have circulation? Because I need to know how high I need to ramp up this emergency. Am I walking into a code blue, or I'm not walking into a code blue? Do I have time to think? Do I have time to ask questions? Because seconds counts. If I walk in and the patient's not breathing, nothing matters except I got to make sure someone's bagging the patient. Does the patient have a pulse? Nothing else matters if he doesn't have a pulse. I have to do compressions. Then I figure out what caused it, right? First, I got to make sure he's alive. So the one of the most important things when you walk into any situation, critical situation like that, is you have to stay calm. You have to stay calm. You don't know, you don't have to. And I think I'm going to speak to a lot of people, and I think this is going to make you feel better, people. You don't have to know the answer when you walk in and you see something. You don't. Trust that you probably do, but if you don't, you just need to know who does. Does that mean, does the charge nurse, are they the ones who are helping you out? Are they your resource? The doctor, are they your resource? When you can't figure out what's going on, you don't have to panic. You just have to make sure you don't sit on it. Make sure you call someone who does. Call the rapid response team. What is your responsibility, right? And simple, very simple. You probably taken BLS classes. Make sure they're breathing, make sure they have a pulse. And if they don't, you need to provide it. Make sure you're ambu bagging them. Make sure you're doing compressions. Other than that, you've got time to call someone who does have the answer. So being calm is the first thing that it's so important. I really encourage critical thinking skills. Some nurses, some people naturally have critical thinking skills, and you don't have to be an ICU to have critical thinking skills. You could be a med surg all your life and still have great critical thinking skills, and they'll serve you in that capacity. But it helps, you start doing the math. What's going on with the patient? What caused these symptoms? Is there something I don't know? What are the labs? A bunch of little questions. And I know that it's scary right now because you're like, oh my God, it's so much. How am I going to figure it out? Here's the beauty of it though. With experience, with experience. It's like riding a bicycle. It's really hard at first, but the more you do it, some of this stuff you don't have to think about anymore. It will come to you. So I know it seems like hard, and how do people do it? You will. We were built that way to be able to store knowledge, to learn, and to grow. I promise you, it's not that I'm super smart when I walk into a room, but when I walk into the room, I just have so much experience to draw from. Here's what I believe. Here's what I believe. Sometimes I'll walk into a patient and I can't put my finger on what's wrong with the patient. But I've got red flags going on when I'm looking at the patient, right? Like, okay, this doesn't look right. There is something, I don't know what it is, but there's something going on with this patient. And I I tie that up to two things, two different things. One of it is we're thinking with our conscious, we're consciously thinking with our forefront, right? Trying to reason, trying to figure things out. But our subconscious is the biggest part of our brain. That's where we handle almost all the functions of the body. Consciously, you don't have to tell yourself to breathe. Consciously, you don't have to tell your heart to do a heartbeat. Subconsciously, it manages all of that, right? So it's like a massive database. So as you've gained experience as a nurse, you'd be surprised how many things you've been filing back there, learning. So, for instance, this is what I'm getting at. I might walk in, I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but there's something going on. My consciousness, my front's like, can't figure out there's something wrong because what's going on in the back, my subconscious is telling my conscious, we've seen this before. You're
Hmm.
not, you can't tell, but I'm noticing a certain shade of color in the fingertips with that type of depth of breathing, with that kind of fluttering of the eyes, things that are very subtle that maybe consciously I'm not picking up, but subconsciously it's there. And it said, and it's telling me, you've seen this before. The last time you saw this, it was bad. It has to do with sepsis or it has to do with something. So all of a sudden you're looking at the patient, you're like, I don't know, my gut, right? We call it our gut. My gut
Gut feeling.
tells me that it might be sepsis, but it's one of two things. But the one of them, biggest one, the one that's most common, let's just call it, the one more acceptable, is that it's subconsciously you're putting all these things together, and it's telling you and kind of guiding you into you need not to ignore this. Try this. That's the most common one. But also because I've had these experiences, I believe that spiritually also, all of a sudden you're there. If it's a calling, so I feel like I little alerts saying, God's telling me, pay attention. Something's about to happen. Pay attention. And maybe it's an experience I've never had that I have nothing to draw from. Just spiritually, I feel like I'm being led sometimes. So gut feeling. Trust your gut feeling. There's scientific based reasons why you should trust your gut feeling, and spiritually, there's also reasons why you should trust your gut feeling. So, walking into an unknown emergency, right? You don't have, it's okay. Be calm. You don't have to know the answers. You do need to know that you know who to call to get the answers that you don't know. But first, ABCs, baby. ABCs.
Wow, what an excellent response, Raul. I remember when I switched from medical surgery, like med surg nurse, and I did the ER internship, and I became an ER nurse. That was a frightening experience at first because somehow in your mind you develop that if I face an emergency, like I'm the only one there, and that I have to come up with all the answers. That's not the reality. The reality is that when an emergency comes, everybody wants to be involved in that emergency. Like I remember that code blue goes on, you have the whole entire hospital in that room. You actually have to say like, okay, we have enough. We have
Go
enough.
away, go away.
Go away. We have enough people here. So I remember that, Raul, that, when I became an ER nurse and I had my first emergency, like suddenly I have like two doctors, a bunch of nurses, experienced nurses, rapid response team there. And of course, at first, I was more like, ooh, okay, let me get back and let the expert kind of do the thing.
Yeah.
And I watch and learn. But as you become more experienced, then you're more hands-on. You're like, oh, I can do this. I've seen this like one time, 10 times, 15, 20 times. So it's very important what Raul is saying, to trust your instincts. If it doesn't look right, it's probably not right. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right either. And like Raul said, the most important is A, B, C. The patient's breathing, it has a pulse. Okay, everything else can wait a little bit. Okay,
Right.
so
We've got time to
excellent,
think. Yeah. Well,
excellent.
and here, I want to talk to people's fears about that. For instance, um, I when I graduated, I went straight into ICU. Like 6 months before I graduated, I had a job in ICU. So I had no experience, no med surg experience, nothing. Of
Wow.
course, I was terrified. I don't recommend it for everybody, right? I didn't know what I didn't know, so to me that was normal. And I remember one day, and I drove into work, and when I went to get my assignment, I had a realization while I got dressed in the morning, while I drove to work. Not once did I ask myself, oh, what kind of patient am I going to have? Oh, is it going to be too hard? Oh, my stomach is hurting. Not once. It was the first time. And I said, well, I wonder what a patient I'm going to be getting. And my answer was, whatever it is, it is. I got it. Right. But it took 3 years before I walked in saying, whatever, I got it, right? 3 years. Now, granted, it was ICU, but 3 years. But this is exactly the same for all your new grad nurses, whether you're a year or 2 years out of school. Trust me, you still feel like, what if I miss something? Or what if I do something wrong? What am I going to get? And you stress and you're worried. It's normal. 100% of us feel that way when we start nursing. When you meet that experienced nurse or that experienced preceptor, because that's another thing, right? You're starting off here in the US or anywhere, you're going to get a preceptor that's going to hold your hand. That they're your immediate resource to ask questions and to guide you. You're going to have them for a while. And after you don't have a preceptor, you can still ask them. They're still experienced nurses. And then you have your charge nurse. They will be an excellent resource. So you have resources, and that's before you call an emergency. That's for like simple everyday things that you may be unsure of, right? So you have all those resources there. But even if you're a regular med surge, it takes a year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years. That's normal. I have nurses because I've trained a lot of ICU nurses. I have had nurses who come into the ICU program terrified. They've been working as an ICU nurse for a year and they're still like, I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Normal. And these are nurses that were med surge or ER nurses for 20 years. And yet when they change fields, because that happens to us, anytime we enter a new area, we feel like new grads, right? So being afraid is normal. It's okay. It's okay. You're normal.
Very good. Raul, I have a very special question to ask you from a very special person to me. Okay? The question is this. If you had the opportunity to talk to a young person, like very young, in their 20s, and they're like, Raul, I'm deciding whether do I do nursing or do I do medical, become a doctor. With your experience dealing with doctors every day, dealing with nurses every day, what would be your advice for somebody like that, somebody young like that?
From somebody young who is trying to decide if they want to become a nurse or a doctor or just work in healthcare in general?
Nurse or a doctor?
Okay, good question. All right. It's a good question because I had this conversation with my daughter who at 13 told me that she was going to be a neurosurgeon, right? At 13. That's what she told me.
Well,
So now she's
I would say, Ro, is my daughter asking that question. So I give you that much. So I'm throwing it to you. So
excellent, because I just went and still am going through that with my daughter, who is now 20 and who 2 weeks ago passed her state boards to be a respiratory therapist. So she's in the healthcare. So here's what happened. Being a doctor is completely still on the table for her. So when I was young, if you would have told me that I could be a doctor, to me that was impossible. That's for smart people. I could never be a doctor, right? That's just I had low expectations. I mean, I didn't think that would be possible. Now, dealing with all these new doctors who are coming in constantly, who use me for a resource, I realized I could have easily become a doctor if that's what I wanted to do. I don't. I love the nurse lifestyle more than I love the doctor lifestyle. I'm very happy where I am.
me
But you
too.
are right. So, but you're able to. Then I realized, of course, I could have been a doctor if that's what I wanted. Now, so for instance, the question is, my daughter's like, should I just go straight into med school? Should I get my prerequisites, go into med school, and figure it out that way? And the answer is, you could. You could, if you know that that's what you want to do, you can. Now, here's because there's so many things that you don't know until you become that. And a doctor is no exception. I work with a lot of doctors who are fresh out of school, who are fresh starting 2, 3 years. But one of the biggest surprises for me and one of their biggest complaints is the massive school debt that they carry, right? 300, 400, $500,000 worth of school debt. And when some of these doctors start, they're not making the big bucks. There's a lot of nurses that make more money than doctors do in the first 5, maybe even 10 years of their career, believe it or not, depending on their specialty and where you work, right? So one approach, which is what I recommended to my daughter, I says, hey, you can either go to community college and get a 2-year degree in nursing, because I promise you, when you're taking care of a patient, nobody asks you, do you have an associate's or do you have a bachelor's? Nobody cares.
Nobody
Are
cares.
you a good nurse? Can you handle yourself? I had an associate's from a small community college for the first 24 years of my nursing career, right? But yet I could get a job anywhere because of all my skill sets, because of all the machines I could manage. Nobody would question it until I finally went back and got my bachelor's. So I told my daughter, if you go get an associate's RN, it's a shorter period of time. I said, and you're going to have, by the time you finish, you're going to have no debt. Now, there's a caveat to that. Right now, there's waiting lists, crazy waiting lists for nurses in community colleges. So it might take you a while to actually get in the program. You can go get a bachelor degree at a private school or a university for nursing. You'll knock it out in 4 years. That's the fast way to do it. Fast way to do it. You know you want to do it. You go into nursing. 4 years, you're going to get your nursing degree. You're going to start working in nursing. Caveat: it's going to have a pretty large, debt, anywhere between 60 to $100,000 in school debt if you go to a university. And I'm talking if you don't have, if you don't have school sponsors or funding for it, right? Uh, um, so that's the caveat on it. However, if you become a nurse first before you pursue your medical degree, it's going to be a lot easier for you in many ways. You're going to be used to patients. You're going to be used to walking in rooms. You know the lingo. You're going to have some experience going in. And also, you'll be able to sustain yourself because a lot of people work part-times when they're in medical school, right? And they'll be able, to certain part of it.
Level.
So, yeah, certain level, certain years they'll be able before it gets to the end. So you'll have income while you're doing it. So there's a lot about, if you don't mind taking the route that's a little longer, then becoming a nurse is absolutely the way to go, because here's what happens a lot of times. Life. So you're in there, you already become a nurse, you're starting making money, you want to be a doctor, but all of a sudden life happens and you realize my passion is now this. I've worked with doctors, I realize I don't want to be a doctor. I'm happy doing this, and you have a great career. You never know when life's going to take you another way. Because I've talked to a lot of unhappy doctors who,
Yeah.
it's just they were so far into it, they were so vested in it that they can't stop, right? Okay, I'm almost done. I'm going to finish med school. I'm almost done. So let me do it. I don't even really like it, but I got a medical degree. So I'm going to work as a doctor. And they're not always necessarily happy where they are. But if you become a nurse first, you wean all that out. You figure things out. You have more opportunities to grow. And being a nurse is not a bad thing at all. So
Not a bad
I
gig at all.
unless, but you know what, there's a few people out there, not most of us, but a few people who know with every cell in their being, I want to be this and nothing's going to stop me. If that's you, then you go straight into medical school and you attack it, because you know, but most of us, we think we know, or we don't really know.
Thank you. Thank you, Raul. This is
Mhm.
like I said, a very special question to me. And I am actually very happy that you had that conversation with your daughter.
I did.
That's
I
very good.
did. Because, how do you encourage someone to go into healthcare? It's easy. And you guys will love this. You guys who are in nursing school or who are working your way through, you're going to love this. Here in the US, we do 12-hour shifts, right? So full time in a hospital, in most hospitals, full time is 3 days a week. Well, what does 3 days a week mean? It means you have 4 days a week off to pursue whatever passion you have in life. If nursing might not be your only passion in life, this is fantastic. So I tell my kids, healthcare, you do 3 days a week, 4 days a week. You can, work Sunday, Monday, Tuesday this week, work Thursday, Friday, Saturday that next week. You just did full time, but in the middle, you got an 8 day gap. You didn't have to ask for a vacation, but guess what? You have a whole week off. You want to go somewhere, you want to travel, want to get a different type of job. The world is your oyster. You have options.
Oh, thank you, Raul. That's a very, very wonderful advice. Another question is, what advice would you give to nurses who dream on building their career in the United States as a nurse? So they are international, they're in another country, and they want to become a nurse in the U.S. Any special advice that you would give to those type of students?
So, make your victory inevitable. I tell this to everybody, no matter what your passion is. Make your victory inevitable. What does that mean? That means you don't get discouraged if it takes longer than you think, longer than you want. But every day, every time, you're always working toward it, taking steps toward it. You are going to make it inevitable. You might think the finish line is right here, but there's certain delays and the finish line is over here. If your mentality is, I don't care the distance, I just care the goal, you're not gonna be as discouraged as easily. Anytime there's a bump in the road, you're gonna look at the bump and you say, okay, this one, am I gonna dig under it? Am I gonna walk around it, or I'm gonna jump it? But I'm not gonna stop. And first of all, it's all mindset. You have to, and I promise it's worth it. It is so worth it. So yes, you figure it out. Now, as far as being able to do it legally and come here, I can't speak to that. I don't have that experience. I don't have that knowledge. But I tell you what I do know. I do know that there's a specific community out there, the Filipino community, right? Filipino community,
Yeah.
who to them it's ingrained. Back in the Philippines, you're gonna become a nurse. So many nurses over there. You're gonna come to the U.S. and they do. There's so many. So I know that there's ways. I don't know what they are, but I know that there's ways because I see a community that's taking advantage of that. But I see a lot of it's like a boiling pot, especially here in
Yeah.
Los Angeles where I'm at. I walk in here, I hear all kinds of accents. You said someone was here from listening to us from Uganda. I have a bunch of nurses I work from that Uganda. They've got the thick. We have these thick accents, right? So
Yes.
I know it's possible. I can't speak into the specifics of it, but I know it's possible. And if that's what you want to do, just grave these words in your mind. You know, make your victory inevitable. Take the steps. Keep asking. Keep looking. It's not about when, right? It's not about if. It's a matter of when, and the when, it doesn't discourage you as much as the desire for the accomplishment.
Thank you, Raul. Very good. So you mentioned, Raul, that you've you lost count of how many times you have interacted with a patient, grabbed their hands, in the last moment. You've had your share of patients that has passed away. And I know that sometimes that has like it puts a burden in your heart when you have your patient that passes away. So the question is, what personal habits have you developed to maintain that healthy balance between your nursing career, Raul the nurse, versus Raul the husband, Raul the father, Raul the brother at church? What have you done to couple with that? Because there has been many times, and it's been studied over the past few years a lot. The burnout syndrome. Nurses work with very difficult, high emotional experiences. And if they don't develop that habit, a blessing can become not a blessing. So what would you say to that?
If when you work long enough, and everybody who becomes a nurse will, whether it's 1 year or 15 years, whatever, when you work up long enough, you are going to have experiences that are going to impact you. You're going to have experiences that are going to be hard to forget. I mean, I can think of a couple right now that I try to block because they trigger me, right? You're going to. So, how do you prepare? I always say this, it's very important. You can't give what you don't have, right? If
Yes.
you're walking around as an empty cup, and then you walk to the hospital where you have to give, especially when you're dealing with patients in difficult situations, and it's not just your patients. When your patient is sick, when your patient is in crisis, their whole family is sick. Their whole family is in crisis. So you're often filling not just your patient's cup, but the family's cup also. You can't give what you don't have, right? So outside of work, it really is important that you do a lot of self-care. In my case, right, I'm a believer. I spend my time with God. I have him fill me up so that I can give, and a lot of it is gratitude. I mean, a
Yes.
lot of this is gratitude. When I have a difficult patient, and I'm not talking about clinically difficult. I'm talking about difficult as they're demanding, they're
Emotional.
grateful, they'll throw fists at you, right? Or the family is just like constantly, and you're at 12 hours of right? And you will have them. Yeah, will. Sorry.
Yeah.
Um, what gets me through the shift is all of a sudden I realize that 7 p.m. comes, I get to punch out. They don't.
They don't.
Whatever process they're going with, it's there 24/7, 24/7. And I realize, wow, thank you, Lord. I don't have the burden that they have. Here's one thing I've learned about life. I can't judge. I have no business judging people because I do not know, right, what they have walked through, what they have lived to cause them in that situation. It's easy to judge, but don't, because you never, even coworkers, sometimes we work with difficult coworkers, but outside the hospital, later on I realized what they were going through, and I'm like, I feel bad. I had no idea they were going through it. So when you have, really difficult patients, what helps me get through it is I'm grateful for what I have. I'm grateful that I'm not in their situation. I'm grateful that I'm on this side of the bed and not that side of the bed. And I have to remind myself, I have to take deep breaths. I have to be that spirit of servitude to get me through. Gratefulness during work and outside of work really fills a person's cup. Like for instance, here's one thing that I experienced as a healthcare worker, which I think is interesting, right? My family, certain things will set them off as it's urgent. This is a crisis.
Hmm.
And things that are important. I'll give you an example. Let's say you get to toward the end of the month and there's no more money left for the end of the month. You have 1 month than you
Yeah.
do money, right? That could be stressful. That's a crisis. That could be, and even though maybe 3 days into the new month, you're going to get your paycheck. So the money's going to come back in, right? Sometimes I find that people or my family, whoever, that they might stress out under that situation, like stress. But as a healthcare worker, I'm like, it, nobody's dying. I have my health, right? I'm able to compare relatively what a real crisis is. This person I was just at work today, and this person out of nowhere got this ALS diagnosis. Holy cow! Talk about life changing and all about a horrible news. That's a crisis. So all of a sudden, I find that outside of work as healthcare workers, we don't hit the ceiling as fast when there's emergencies and stuff because we're able to decipher. We have something to compare to, so as emergencies, right? We're able to do that. That's a positive for us. So we're grateful. Gratitude does that a lot for us, to be able to fill our cups and help us manage these situations. That's one way I'm able to unpack when I'm at home. Now, the other thing, which is I think just as important, is healthcare and nursing can be your calling, it can be your passion. It should not be your only passion. Outside of work, you need something to be excited about, something that fills your cup, whether it's sports, whether it's certain clubs or activities, right? Whether you
Music.
like when it comes going your ministry, going to church, you need to have a second passion. Healthcare cannot be your only. That will keep you well balanced. That will keep you healthy. Yes, you'll always be able to relate to bad things that happen in the hospital with other coworkers. You'll be able to. No, your family won't understand. It's kind of hard to share it with them and have them understand what you're going through. But that's why you have peers in the industry who can help you work through some of these things. As nurses, we're healthcare workers. One thing that we're terrible at is we'll go out to dinner and someone will ask a question, and we'll talk about things that don't bother us, don't gross us out. But everybody else at the table is like, "Oh, what do you mean a catheter or diarrhea?" Oh, and to us, it's, "Oh yeah, it happened." It's like nothing. We forget whose company we're in and how it affects them differently. So we need that. We need that support from peers because they understand us. But then we need a second passion that's totally unrelated to be able to fill us on the outside.
Absolutely. Excellent, Raul. Have you ever, at any time in your 30 plus career, have you ever thought about quitting nursing? And if so, what moment or experience kind of like put you close to saying, did I really make a good decision? Do I really want to do this for the rest of my life? Has that ever happened to you?
I have a lot of passions outside of nursing. And so the only thing that kind of has drawn me out, like one time I didn't do nursing for like 9 months because I was doing other things that I was very passionate about. Nursing does not push me out. Other things might draw me out so that I can focus more on that, but it's not a reflection on being negative with nursing at all. I feel at this point, been doing it for 32 years. I'm 55 years old. Um, I have a feeling I'll retire from nursing when it's time to retire. So I probably have another 10, 15 years left. I think I'm going to, in spite of all the other activities that we're doing, like with this new book that we talked about, I'm touring, right? I had a tour in Argentina, I had a tour in Mexico, I'm touring in the US, I'm speaking a lot of events. We're doing a lot of the activities on the side, but at the same time, we still come back and we're still serving on bedside, and I'm happy. I love what I do. I'm going to be honest. As a rapid response nurse, I genuinely love what I do. I have two important things as a rapid response nurse. First, try to correct the patient from becoming an ICU, prevent the patient from becoming an ICU, or bridge the emergency and turn them into an ICU patient if I can. Number one, right? Number two is take that opportunity to educate the other nurses and allow it to be a time for them to grow. Those are the two things, and I have a passion for both. I find that I'm very comfortable for it. So I haven't had that. Now now that I said that, let me tell you some challenges. Your health is a challenge. You have to be healthy, or at least take care of yourself to avoid psychological burnout. COVID
Yes.
was very hard for us, and I'm not going to touch too much about it here. We can do a whole other show on the
Yes.
effects of COVID and nursing and stuff like that. That was that was a burnout, and a lot of us still deal with some PTSD from it. So a lot of us, still required some self care, and it made a lot of nurses leave the profession because it was such a challenge. But short of that, there really hasn't been anything that has really challenged me to want to leave the profession. You're never going to work at a perfect hospital. You're never going to work in the perfect department. You're never going to have the perfect management. In spite of that, you give your bet. Like I'll share a story. It's a little embarrassing. It's a little emotional for me, but I think it's going to get the point across to people. So many years ago, I worked. I say many years ago, but really, 30 years. What's many years ago? 10 years. I still have a lot of years behind that. But there was this certain award that they would give at the place where I worked, and it's a great reward, very respected. And I would always get asked, Raul, how many times have you won that award? And I'm like, I haven't. How many times? I haven't. And I hadn't won that award. I'd been recognized in that way by the hospital, right? And it didn't bother me. But after a while, year after year, people would keep asking me, and it started bothering me. Like, yeah, why haven't I, been recognized? And then a part of it was I realized that we started getting newer nurses, and they all just assumed that I had gotten it. So, people didn't really take me into account. Anyway, there was this one day, however, and when they present the award, they surprise you with there's a certain way they set you up for it. Then one day I get the call. Can you please come down here? And I'm like, okay. And I walked in, and everybody was lined up, and I was there. I mean, it was obvious. The setup was obvious, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's finally gonna happen. I'm gonna try to tell the story without crying. I'm gonna try. This is an emotional story for me. I'm like, it's finally gonna happen. And then they start talking about the person they're gonna give to the award. And about a minute into it, I realized, wait, that's not me. That's not me. And then they mentioned another person that was in the room. And of course, I applauded and everything. But what surprised me was the impact of that. Like, I I really thought it was me, and the letdown was so massive. I played it off that it hurt. So I
Hmm.
got in my car that day. That was toward the end of my shift. After the shift was over, I called my car, and it's not that I'm asking to be recognized, but it is nice. It means something that your peers see that in you. When I'm driving home, I just started to cry. I really let out. I'm like, I don't. I'm like, do people not? Do I not work hard enough?
Hmm.
Why was I? That was me. I mean, nobody did it on purpose, but why did they set me up like that? And then I did. And then I got home, and right before I called home, I got my wife. She wasn't home. She had taken the kids to run errands. There was nobody at home. So I got home, and I sat in my office, and and I was crying, I was praying to God, like, I don't understand. I feel so bad, Lord. Why? I thought I was good at this. Am I not the right person for that? And you start thinking negative. You
Yes.
start cycling.
Yes.
So I thought, you know what? I need something to shake me up. I went on the computer, and I'm just trying to get my mind off of it. And all of a sudden, see this folder that I have, and it's called Inspirational. And I realized I haven't opened it in forever, but I realized that every time I found a video or something special to me, I would put it in there. I'm like, you know what? I need something inspirational. So I pop it open. And then there was one document, sorry, that was called Letter from a Patient. I'm like,
Wow.
what's that? I'm like, what's that? I don't remember that. And I open it, and it was a letter from a family member to the CEO of the hospital saying, I'm sending you this letter directly because I don't know if the staff has received this letter, but I want to recognize them. And it's a 3-page letter about a family member that passed away and what they went through. And the first page, they mention someone and they say about 2, 3 sentences, really nice things about them. And they have like 10 people. First 2 pages, 10 people, and they mention everyone. I don't see my name in it, but I'm like, well, if I kept this, it must be for a reason, right? All right. And then I get to the beginning of the third page. And then it says, and then there's Raul. And the whole page talks about how I physically skillfully carried their father through the last week of the life and how I emotionally carried them and how much it meant to them.
Wow.
Like I am now. I was
Wow.
bawling and I felt so little because I thought, why this is why I do what I forgot. This is why I do. The award recognition meant nothing. This person gave me the biggest recognition, bigger than any plaque that the hospital could ever give me. The words were so, everything they mentioned about the other 10 nurses, they also mentioned to me. Each one had one special thing, but they assigned everything here. I mean, their words. Because here's the thing, people, when we figure out when you pay a price to become a nurse and you wonder, is it worth it? Let me tell you, there's gonna be times that you're gonna impact people's lives that you will never remember, you will never think of again, but they will always remember you because
Oh,
we tend to remember those moments of those strong emotional, a death, a bad news, whatever it is, a birth, right? Rejoice when we have a strong emotional surge that really gets captured in our mind. It really stays focused in our mind. And when they have those moments, they will always remember the people that were around them, So we stay in people's lives for the rest of their lives. And we don't, for us, sometimes it's just another day in the office, but not for people. I'll tell you another one real quick. One day they called me from school and said that my daughter had an accident. They were playing softball, and one of the girls accidentally during warming up hit her in the head with a bat.
mm,
And if I could please rush there. And I'm like driving like crazy to get there and wondering, well, why didn't they take her to the hospital? Right. And then I get there and I'm checking her out. She's okay, but she's bleeding. So I pick her up and like, why'd you guys take her to the ER? No, we were waiting for you. I'm like, anyway, I take her to the ER. It's a little bit of a slow day, thank God. We get her checked in. The doctor comes in and starts checking her, and she's just working kind of quickly on my daughter. What happened? This okay, okay, but every so often she's like telling me. She stops and she looks at me. She keeps working. She stops and finally she's like, "Do I know you?" And I'm like, I don't know, maybe. I said, we might run in the same circles. She's like, what do you do? I'm like, well, I'm a critical care nurse. Then she looks at me, and a shock comes over her face. She's like, do you work at this hospital in this unit? And I'm like,
yeah.
yeah. And she starts to cry and cry. She's like, it's you. It's you. She's like, you don't know how long I've wanted to talk to you. She's like, I don't remember. I don't know if you remember my father, but this was like 10 years before that, so I didn't remember. He's like, he had open heart surgery. It was the worst week of life. We went through this. He eventually passed. He says, and I've sat here all this time feeling guilty because I am a doctor and I missed it. And I keep trying to figure it out. But I remember you. You took us by the hand. Even though I'm a doctor, when you're in those moments, you can't think. You made things easy for me. She's like, I need you to help me. I'm like, sure. She's like, do you remember? Was it my fault? Did I miss something? And I was shocked that she's been living with guilt for 10 years about her father. And I said, I don't remember your father, but I know you do. If you want to, let's go over your father's case and I'll tell you what I know. So we went over the whole thing, right? And she's crying the whole time. She's right, the whole thing. And I kept saying, nah, you didn't miss that. Nah, you couldn't have, there's nothing. At the end, I'm like, you didn't miss anything. It's okay. It's not your fault. And she's crying, and I impact her life. And then she says, I don't know how to ever repay what you're doing. And I'm like, well, you kind of are taking care of one of my most precious things in my life right now, which is my daughter. She had stopped sewing halfway through. I'm like, if you want to finish that, I'd appreciate that. So she's laughing and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is, I don't remember her. I don't remember her father. But you stay in people's mind when you make an
Yes.
impact like that and you become important to them. If that's not fulfilling, I don't know what is. This is what you guys who are listening, this is what you're fighting for. This is part of what you get to reap for the uncertainty of the work you're putting in now, for the long hours, the no sleep through classes, for the extra money you're trying to pay to get to the US and do that, for blocking out all the people who are telling you, oh, you're just dreaming. There's a massive payoff. It is all of that, it's worth it.
Wow. What a story, Rose. Thank you for sharing such an amazing emotional experience.
I have never talked about that in any interview. Boy, you really got me. I've done so many interviews. I have never told that story.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing it. I know that it touched your heart.
Yeah.
And it is true. We as nurses, we work very hard and we deal with a lot of chaos, and sometimes we feel under recognized, you know. I've had my share of experiences also. I remember, I think the biggest thing is that we learn so much from the medical field, from the experiences with patients. I remember it was like a Valentine's Day, and I had to work that night. So I go, everybody was like going out to dinners with their spouse, giving each other a gift or having a party or whatever. And I was working. And I remember I had like this very old lady. She had to be like 90 something years old. And I had her like 2 days before. It was my third shift of the week. So I had her 2 days prior to Valentine's. There was nobody there with that old lady. So here comes Valentine's Day, and I'm texting, the people I care, have a wonderful day, this and that, and I'm taking care of this older lady, and I'm looking at her, and I was like, I'm her Valentine, and she's my Valentine. I even sung her a song.
I love it.
I did a little song to her, and I was like, I was so proud to be her Valentine. That lady had nobody to talk to. She was very sick. She was like lethargic, confused. Like it was in her last moment of her life. But I was like, and she passed away the next day. And I was like, I was the last person, there. There was nobody to hold her hand other than my hand. And I remember Raul crying like a baby because I felt like, what bad could you have done in your life to in your last moment not to have anybody to be there with you? And this is the opportunity that we have as nurses. And I tell this to my student all the time. If you're doing nursing because of money, you will leave because of money.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Because it doesn't pay that much to deal with the things that we deal with. But if you do it out of your heart, because it is your passion to be with people in their most dire days, to hold somebody's hand when they're dying or when there's nobody there to be with them, it's an amazing career. Is it challenging? Yes. Are there's going to be those days that you're like, oh, what did I get myself into?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you a lot. You need to tell a story to my Latino nurse. I'm going to have to ask that question one more time. Thank you, Raul.
Of course.
So to wrap up, I wanted to ask you, what has been, you would say, as a nurse, what has been the most impactful or life-changing experience you've had as a nurse when it comes to, the near-death experience? Because I know you're talking your book about it. You created a whole book about these experiences. What would you say about that?
Well, without a doubt, it would be chapter 20. And I'm not going to go into details here. That one, it's too involved. It's too long. And the truth is, when I share these, as you saw, when I share these stories, I relive them,
Yeah.
right? And that one's a hard one to relive. But that is the most supernatural, most impactful, life changing. I can't. If it hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't have believed its story. Chapter 20. You know, you you said something at the beginning about how you like the name injection of faith, right? And people ask me all the time why that it's appropriate, but why that name? And I guess everybody who's listening who's in healthcare get this. It's because when people are need something, they're in need, they're sick, they just need something, they'll come, and we'll often give them medication, we'll give them a pill. And when you take a pill, it goes into your system, takes time for it to be broken down and absorbed and for it to take effect in the body. But when it's urgent, when it's a crisis, when it needs to happen now, we give an injection, because when you give an injection in less than 2 seconds, it hits the heart. Heart squeezes out of the body, and you have an immediate impact of the effect. It's a strong impact. It's a quick peak versus a pill. And I find that these experiences I have when I share them, that's the reaction I get from a lot of people. It's a quick injection of faith into whatever they're going through. Right now, I'm talking to healthcare workers, I'm talking to nurses, but I often share these stories in non-medical areas. And when they hear these stories, and like you said, particularly, need some of these near-death experiences. And for those who don't know what a near-death experience in this terminology means, it's someone who's clinically has died, right? Whether we've pronounced them yet or not pronounced them, I've dealt with both. And after a certain time of period, they come back, um, and they're conscious, awake, alert, conversative, and they share what happened while they were absent from the body. And I've had patients come back and tell me everything I was doing, and things that it's impossible for them to have known, because they were clinically dead and nobody could have told them because it was just them and I in the room. So I've had a bunch of these stories, supernatural. So many supernatural things happen in the hospital. It's crazy. Some have explanations, some don't have no explanation. And they don't even have to be near death. Sometimes things happen in the hospital. But so the most impactful for me in that sense would be chapter 20. But apart from that, I've had a lot of experiences. I had it's so funny because, and I don't remember if I shared this last time with you, but on one occasion when I went to get my bachelor's, the hospital sent me to Montana, to University of Montana in Great Falls, to get my bachelor's and it's a 2-year program, and it was online, but 2 weeks of it had to be in person. So I went for 2 weeks to Montana, and it was during the summer, so there was only nurses there that were doing the same thing. And as part of the project, they asked us to come up with a study, what we would study in the patients, how do we document it, the works. No, okay. So we had a lot of ideas, insulin effect, the stress. We had all these ideas, and I came up with, well, how about near-death experiences? And they all looked at me like I was crazy. I says, look, my patients are having them. I know yours are. We should talk about this. They love the idea. When I presented, I led the presentation. I asked this vast audience of nurses how many had either had a near death experience or had a patient who had one or knew somebody. I don't know if there was close to 80, 100 nurses there. Only three raised their hand. And that shocked me. And I says, look, our patients are having these experiences. The reason you haven't had one is because you're not asking, I says. And I'm going to give you a prime example. I said, Friday, they gave us an assignment. Friday night, we worked on it. Saturday, we worked on it. Saturday night, we decided to take a break and we went to get some pizza. I called a taxi. Taxi guy pulls in. This driver comes in and he's all full of tattoos, specifically from Vietnam. And I said, "Hey, from your tattoos, I gather that you served in Vietnam." He's like, "Yep, sure did." I said, "Well, thank you for your service." I said, "Why don't you tell me the most impact? I'm sure you lived crazy things. Why don't you tell me the most impactful thing that happened to you while you were in Vietnam. And all of a sudden, he gave this look. It's a look that I recognized. It's a look that I've seen in a lot of patients that says, I have a secret, but I don't know if I should share. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, that one, that story that you're thinking
Just
of right there, that's the one I want to hear. And he didn't say anything. Now, one thing that I share in my speeches, and I think I shared with you all the audiences, and nurses, you're going to want to write this one down. Okay. I will often, I'll use these words. So they always bring a lot of fruit. Is I'll put my hand on their shoulder or the back of their arm, somewhere safe for them, and I'll say, "If you tell me, I promise I'll believe you." Those are powerful words. So I did the same thing with him. I said, "If you tell me, I promise." He looked at me. He's like, "You don't believe me?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right." He's driving and he says, all cocky, "I died in Vietnam." I'm like, "Okay, what did you see?" And it surprised him that I answered so quickly, and he didn't say anything. And then I did it again. "I promise I'll believe you." And then he starts crying and crying. He's driving. He's like, "I saw Jesus." Then he goes on to tell me this incredible story about what happened there and how he was sent back and how he came back from when he woke up. He was in the morgue. He hadn't not only been declared, but he had already been put in the morgue. And how at the end of that day, he kept telling when the doctors came to check on him, he's like, "I'm healed. I'm healed." He's like, "Jesus healed me." He says, and there's nothing wrong with me." And he had come in. I asked him, "Well, what did you die of? Were you shot? What happened?" No, he died of sepsis. He was being out in the jungle. He got injured, got infected. He didn't want to say anything because he didn't want to leave his brother in arms. Finally, the sepsis took him down, so they took him to the hospital. By then, it was too late. He renal failure. He had multi organ failure. He shut down until his heart stopped. Right. So they declared him dead. They put him in the morgue, and all of a sudden he comes back. So here's the thing I want you guys to know as healthcare workers: you'll see patients come back, right? We code them, they'll come back. It is rare that they come back and they wake up. It is rare that they come back and they're fully functioning. That's a whole other can of worms, right? And it's even more rare when they go, you declare them dead, because this happened to me. Then they come back and you didn't code them, you didn't give them epi, you didn't give them any medication to cause for them to come back. And then they tell you these amazing, crazy stories. I mean, you got to listen to those, right? So he died of sepsis. And he wound up signing out AMA that same day. He was declared dead at 6 a.m. And at 3:30 p.m., 3:30 p.m., he signed out AMA and he's been healthy ever since. Now he's like 80 years old. And so he's telling me the story. So Monday, when we give him the presentation, I asked that question, like, how many people have you had those experiences? Only 3 hands. I says, the reason you've only had 3 is because you're not asking. I says, I've had so many. I says, Friday they gave their assignment. Saturday I went and I got another story. Listen to this. And then I shared it, right? And our patients are having this experience. One of the things I do as a rapid response nurse is I round on patients after they move out of ICU to make sure they're still doing good, that they don't need to go back to ICU. So which means that anybody who's coded, chances are later on, if they come back and they're fine, I'm going to be able to have a conversation with them. So I'll go in there and I'll ask them. I'll say, "Hey, what do you remember?" And I can tell if they're kind of being cautious, like they're not ready to share. So, hey, I promise I'll believe you. I've had some patients tell me incredible things. I believe them. I'll believe you. What do you remember? Then they'll break down.
Wow.
I had this one guy that had a code. I'll wrap it up with this quick story. This guy coded in cath lab. This is not in the book. This will be in book 2.
All
Coded in
right,
cath
we're
lab.
getting, we're
Yeah.
getting a little
Preview for some
premiere here.
preview. Coded in cath lab. I got there. We shocked him once. He came back. We lost him again. Shocked him a second time. Came back, and finally we straightened him out. Right. Okay. Sent him back up to ICU. I round on him afterwards. Oh, wait. Before we did that, we're working. We can't get him back. We can't get him back. And all of a sudden, the doctor's like, "We need to talk to the family. Who has seen the wife? Where is she?" And one of the nurses says, "Oh, the wife is in the cafeteria. You'll know who she is because she's 8 months pregnant with triplets." Okay, true
Oh,
story. And as soon as she said that, she said that, I knew who she was talking about because 15 minutes earlier I had stopped by the cafeteria and there was this lady in front of me, normal. But the moment she turned from her side, I was like, "Wow!" She had a belly. So as soon as they said that, I knew who they were talking about. And he's like, "You better call them. I think I have some." As soon as she said they're pregnant with triplets, everybody in the room went like, "Oh," because we're not getting him back. We're like, "He's gonna die." So it sucked the air out of the room, but we got him back. So after he moves out of ICU, I go into his room to round on him, make sure he's okay. He's sitting there at the edge of the bed. His wife is next to him. He's sitting at the edge of the bed. He's holding his head, and he just looked like in a daze. So I go up to him. Hey, my name is Raul, critical care nurse. I do the rapid response. I da 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 da. I'm just following up on you. I was there when they coded you. That must have been some experience. He's like, yeah, uh huh. I'm like, wow. So do you remember anything? He's like, I don't know. Just what they told me. And then I looked down because I saw that look. I'm like, no, no. Tell me what you do remember. I know it's confusing. I can help. What do you remember? And he kind of looks at me. He's like, I don't understand. He like all of a sudden becomes really animated. I don't understand. I don't understand nothing. I'm like, okay, well, give me more info and I'll help you. He's like, this isn't right. I'm like, what's not right? He's like, look, I remember laying on the cath lab table. And when you're getting that procedure, you have kind of twilight sedation. So you're kind of awake during. I could hear the doctor. He says, I'm hearing the doctor. And all of a sudden, I get this overwhelming sense that my wife is not right, that she is worried about me. I mean, like, I feel how worried she is. And I don't want her to be worried. So I decide to go tell her that I'm okay. So I get off the bed. I walk out of the room. I make a left on this door. I take this long hallway, and he starts explaining everything. He's like, just as I see the door from the cafeteria, I feel something like grab me from the back and go like, he says, and all of a sudden, I'm back on the table. I kind of half open my eyes. The doctor's like, oh, I think we got him back. He's like, and all of a sudden, after a little while, I feel that sensation again. My wife is really worried. I have to get her. So I get off the table and before I leave the room, all of a sudden I feel myself coming back.
Oh
He,
my.
and I said, wow. I said, really? He's like, yeah, but this isn't right. I'm like, what's not right? This body, this. He's like, when I was walking, that was right. That felt like the way it should be. This is terrible. And he looks at me like confused, like halfway crying. He's like, and I don't even believe in any of this stuff. So I don't know what's going on, right? He's like, I don't know. He grabs me. He's like, why did I come back? I don't understand. Now, he's saying that to me, but I'm sitting there looking at him. His wife, who's 8 months pregnant with triplets, is next to him. And I'm like, you don't know why you came back? I mean, look, I think she needs you. I don't think right now is the right time to leave. But even though logically he kind of could understand, emotionally and spiritually, he realized this was temporary and he had a taste of that, which is home in a sense, or on his way home, whatever that was going to look like for him. And he just knew that, and he's not the only one. I've had so many patients whose exact words, he's like, you think this is real? You think you and me talking, this isn't real. Where I was more real than this. So I get that often. So anyway, that's a new one. That's not in the book. That'll be in the next book, but that's just a
What an
sample.
amazing experience, Raul.
Yeah.
Raul, I bless you so much, brother.
Thank you.
What an amazing opportunity God has given you to help and to share these experiences, because of course there are those who want to believe and those who want to not to believe. That's on them. But for those that, I've always had that question, like, what happens after death? Like, these experiences are amazing. And me personally, I enjoy it. Like, I get
Mhm.
emotional about this. I've read about it, I've seen videos about it, and it's such an amazing experience. But for you to be there and kind of like open your ears to them, and tell them, like, talk to me, like, I'm not going to see you as a crazy person. I'm actually going to listen to you, and maybe even kind of like explain something through the word of what they
Yeah.
they experience. So if they want to read your book, how do they do it? Where do they need to go to get a copy of it?
You know what? Go to raulmesa.com, raulmesa.com. You can go there. For those who are international, there's the digital version. You can buy it through there. It'll be delivered to an app on your phone and you'll be able to read it. You can order the hard copy. Just go to raulmesa.com. I know you have an international audience, so that makes it a
Is
little
that good?
tricky.
Like that, Ro?
That's it. Yes, go ahead and go there. But you know what? I want to. You have an audience here in the U.S. that's listening also.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I'm going to do something special for them right now. Okay. I'm going to do this for a week. I knew I was coming on here and I knew kind of what your audience is, and I want to do something special. So if you go to raulmesa.com right now, I started a contest. It's a 1 week contest. All you have to do is enter your name and your email address, and you're going to enter the contest. You're going to get a certain number of credits, and I'm going to do a raffle at the end of the week. I'm going to let you announce the winner next week live on your show. And yes, if this first part is if you live in the US. I can't do this if you I have something for you if you win and you're out if you're not in the US, but if you're in the US. Well, first let me tell you, if you win and you're not from the US, I'm going to send you a free digital copy of the book. I'm going to send it to you so you can enjoy it on your phone, on your computer, on your Kindle, wherever you want. So I'll get you a free copy. If you happen to win and you happen to be here in the US, two things. I'm going to send you a hard copy. I'm going to sign it for you. Injection of Faith right here. I'm going to send you a signed copy. Now, the other thing that we haven't even talked about, but when I say I have passions outside of the hospital, is that I'm a bit of an entrepreneur. I love creating products. I've spoken on a lot of stages about it. But being a healthcare worker and a nurse, I know what tools are important to me. So many years ago, on one of my visits to China, I went to different factories and I talked to them. And I created a stethoscope that I'm very happy about. It's called the Passionate Care Stethoscope, right?
Wow.
It's a premium stethoscope, beautiful, right? I don't think it's available on Amazon right now because I sell out. So right now, I think I'm sold out. But I have this one right here. I might have a few on raulmeza.com. I'm not sure. But whoever wins, not only will I give them a signed copy of my book, I'm also going to ship you this stethoscope completely free. Because of the shipping stuff, you got to be in one of the 48 states here in the US. I'm going to let this contest run 1 week. So I think then the 11th at noon, I'll cut it off. And then so that you do it live on the show, I'm going to send you the person's information. We'll get their information and I'll ship it out to your audience. I like to do that for your audience.
Perfect, Raul. So, would you be able to like do like a video in Spanish so I can post it with my Latino nurses that are here in the U.S. That way they can also join that raffle and maybe have that opportunity as well. That would be great.
Sounds like a blast. Absolutely. I'll do it to you. I'll do it. And the contest went live at 2 o'clock today, Pacific time, which is 5 o'clock your time in Florida. So I'll do that video today and send it to them so that they have the whole week to be able to, our Spanish audience will be able to enjoy it. And whenever the winner is, you'll have to let me know if they want the book in Spanish or English so that I send the right one.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that gift, Raul. Anybody here, if you want to read a book about faith, about some very incredible scenarios between a nurse and a patient that has had a near-death experience, I encourage you to read Raul's Mesa's book. It will be an amazing experience, and I'm waiting for edition number 2. The next one, because this story was like amazing.
How are we got 5 minutes or are we done?
Yeah. Go ahead. We're available.
Yeah. Okay. So there's stories in here. They'll make you laugh. They'll inspire you. They'll make you cry. It's just, it hits because that's what happens in nursing. We have all these things.
Yes.
So because I don't usually tell this story, but because we're with healthcare workers, nurses, I'm going to share one more story with you. Okay. And it has to do with being a new grad. So I'm a new grad, a nurse, and I'm working in ICU. And I have my patients. Then the charge nurse comes up to me and says, Raul, have you done postmortem care yet? I'm like, postmortem care, for those that don't know, it's the care that we provide a patient after they pass away as we prepare them and send them to the morgue. And I'm like, no, I haven't done that. He's like, today's your day, buddy. Come on.
You're
And
the
when she said,
winner.
yeah, winner chicken dinner. Here you go. We're going to do this patient. And when she said that, I knew that when she said we were going to do it, I knew she meant I was going to do it, right? So I walk into there, and there was this little lady who had passed away a couple of hours before the change of shift. And I was working nights that time. So it was probably like 7:30 p.m. I had just started my shift. And she had died a few hours earlier. So she explained to me what we're going to do and stuff. And she's like, first thing you're going to do is going to lay her flat. The problem is that, she'd gotten a little stiff by that because
Yeah.
they left her sitting up. They left her sitting up for hours. I'm like,
Ooh.
oh my gosh. So I put her down and she doesn't want to bend. And I'm trying. Her legs, I mean, it looks like something from the Three Stooges, or Mr. Bean. It really was. I'm like, you got to help me. I can't do this. So I finally got her nice and straight. We bathed her, we cleaned her, we put her in the morgue bag, we delined her, we put her in the bag, zipped it up. And then he's like, gather her belongings. When I was gathering the belongings, I found this denture cup. And I thought it was really interesting because she had actually bejeweled it, right? She had all these little jewels she had stuck on there. It was really cute. She had her dentures in there. And I'm like, hey, what do we do with these dentures? Do you want me to tape them to the bag? And she's like, no, 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 no. We don't want to do that. She says, the last time we did that, the dentures fell off. We lost them. The family was furious because during the funeral, she didn't have her dentures and she just didn't look right. They sued the hospital. It was ugly. From now on, we put the dentures in there. I'm like, how am I going to do that? She's been stiff. She's, rigor mortis. She's like, we got to do it. So I unzip the bag and I'm trying to and it doesn't fit, right? Her mouth doesn't open. It's tight. I'm like, you're going to have to help me. I can't do this. And I doing the best I can. I'm trying to open. Finally, after a while, I get her. I mean, it's struggle. I finally get it in. I zip her up and like my hands are all cramped and this is someone who's passed away, so they've got all this saliva that's old. I mean, it's not pretty. I tell you guys, because you're nurses, you can handle it. It is not pretty. And I'm a new grad. I'm like freaked out, grossed out. We get her in. Um, ICU used to be on the 5th floor. The morgue was in the basement. Never been there before. Put her in an elevator. Got a special cart. For those that don't know, we put them in a special cart so that when we take them in the hallway, people don't know it's a body, right? So then we take them and put them in the cart, go to the basement, get out. As soon as we get out, it's dark. I've never been there. We have the autopsy room, and it looked like something from a horror movie as they're driving by because they had just done an
Yes.
autopsy. So
Yes.
there's still instruments and blood on the floor, and it's creepy. I'm like freaked out. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I finally get to the end where we have the refrigerators. Now, it's the kind you pull out, right? We have the morgue. And it looks like it had been a bad weekend because we had like 6 of them and 5 of them were busy. And the only one that was available was the one way on top. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, how are we going to get it up there? She's like, you and me, we're going to lift them. When she said you and me, I knew she was talking about me because I'm 6'1", she's 4'9". Do the
Yeah.
math, right? It's
It was.
do
It
the
was you.
math.
It was you.
It was me. Thank God she weighs 90 pounds wet, the patient, right? 90 pounds, little old lady. So anyway, I finally, best I could, got her up, closed it, went back through the morgue, back through the autopsy. We came out of the elevator. She's like, there you go. You just finished your first postmortem. And you have any questions? I'm like, I have one question. She's like, yeah. Did you tell the family the patient was going to pass away? She's like, yeah, well, no, not yet. I mean, they knew she was going to pass tonight, but I haven't called them to tell them. She's like, why? I says, well, I think now would be a good time. Look. And I pointed, and the family's there at the entrance to the room looking in, and all they see is this empty room. And they're all confused, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, they don't know she died. Like, you're going to have to tell them. And she looks at me, she's like, well, this sounds like a good day for you to learn. Come on, you're going to do it. And I'm like, no, like, we're going to do it together. I'm like, okay. So we go up to him. Little old man, little old lady, they're there looking in the room. And then she says, I'm sorry, sir, can I help you? And the gentleman's like, yeah, yeah, please. You see, my wife, she was a patient in this room. She got discharged yesterday, but they left her dentures. Have you seen her dentures? They're in a little bejeweled little case. That's where I lived. Have you seen them? And then we're like, oh my God. And of course, now the nurse to this experience today would say, no, haven't seen them. Don't know what you're talking about. Did you check the room? I don't know. But the inexperienced nurse back there said, you know what? I did. Give me a moment. I'll be right back. I grabbed the nurse. We go in the elevator. You go down, go in the
Oh,
autopsy. We go, pull open the bottom, take her down, unzip her, forget the teeth out, go, zip her back up, throw her, put her in the refrigerator, take her. We're running through the morgue. I see a fountain. I say, quick, quick, wash it under the fountain. She opens the water. She goes like this, takes it, and we put it in the little box. We're in the elevator, and I said, look, whatever you do, please tell her that because it's in the hospital, she's got to like really, really clean those. I mean, hit her with X-rays, whatever. Really clean those. I will. So we get there. She opens up. She opens up the top and shows them, are these it? And before we could say anything, grabs them, pops them in her mouth, smacks her lip. Yep,
oh
these are the ones. And
no.
I'm like, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Just let her be
Oh,
happy she can eat. And she walks away. Oh my gosh, what a story. I could not believe that happened. But yes, those kind of things happen when you
It
work in a
happens to
hospital.
nurses.
It
Yes, it is.
happens to nurses.
It happens to
Oh
nurses.
my gosh. So yeah, so you'll find stories that will crack you up. Obviously, stories that are going to inspire you and teach you,
Absolutely.
and yes, stories that'll make you cry.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Raul, for joining us. It's been an amazing experience. Thanks for sharing some of your difficult stories and the funny stories.
Thank you.
I hope that God continues to walk with you and that you're able to share these stories with many, many people across the world, and that all those dreams of, being an entrepreneur and doing this and doing that comes true to your life. And thank you for being part of my life and
Oh,
NCLEX Crusade. And it's going to be a wonderful journey. I know that we're going to be able to share many stories around the world together. I know that we're gonna see that happen. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure to serve. Here we are. Anything you need, we're here. Thank you and your lovely wife for hosting me, especially for sharing me with your audience. God bless you. God bless everybody.
Thank you, Raul. God bless you too. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we took a little break today from NCLEX teaching. I wanted you to listen to this story from Raul. And if you have a chance, go find that book. It's going to be very inspiring for you. And I'll see you next week, all right, with another training for NCLEX. Thank you for joining our YouTube NCLEX Crusade International. God bless you all. Good day. Bye-bye.